This is the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast with your host, Vicki Davis.
I have Laurel Aguilar-Kirchhoff with me today. We're talking about the problem of the moment, which is all the discussion forums that the kids are AI generating. Laura, you are a college professor. Do you feel like kids are using AI?
Yes, completely, all the time. It's the problem for all teachers right now. It doesn't matter what you're teaching, it's what they're turning in. They're using AI, and I don't blame them. I don't blame the students for using AI. On some of my assignments, I went back and I was looking at them and I'm like, of course they would write with AI on this. What do I really want them to get out of this assignment? I need to make some changes.
And AI has some common words, like, because I've seen them. Like the one I've seen is delve. You've noticed some common words that, like, say, hey, AI wrote this. What are those words?
Foster, tapestry, weaving a tapestry of collaborate. Oh my gosh, if I read that one more time, I'm like, okay, that's just AI. Come on. No one writes like that. Or consistently writes like that.
Yeah, exactly. You were telling me, which is why we returned on record, because we're like, this is the issue of the time, and we need to help people. You're not always wanting to give an essay now. What'd you do for a midterm in one of your classes?
Because I was getting so frustrated with just getting these AI generated responses from my students, I just decided I'm not going to assign an essay for their midterm. Secondary teachers teaching English language learners. It's one of the classes I'm teaching this semester. So I did this complete overhaul. I had them create a storyboard of themselves telling a story of them as a teacher and incorporating the SEDI strategies and all of the different strategies for themselves as an English language learner teacher. And they could use whatever they wanted. They could use, whatever ed tech platform to create the storyboard. But my students were so upset. They wanted to write an essay. And I was like, no, I want you to authentically tell me about your journey as a teacher working with English language learners. And let's do this differently.
So let me get this straight. They wanted to write an essay.
They wanted to write an essay.
They said, why can't we write an essay instead of this? And you've never heard that. You've never heard them say, I want to write an essay.
I have never heard my students ever in 25 years of teaching ask me to write an essay instead of a project. And they were like, come on, Kirchhoff, just let us write this essay. And I was like, no, we're going to do something creative. I was so excited about this project. It aligned better to my learning intentions and my success criteria for what I really needed them to demonstrate for their knowledge. I needed them to demonstrate, all of these different points, and they could do this in a creative way, but it really helped with my grading because instead of sitting there and grading all of these essays, I used a single point rubric. I had identified the criterion that I really needed them to demonstrate. I shared that rubric with them. We went through and then we did a student showcase. And so they were able to talk to each other and give feedback, personalized feedback. They worked on their speaking and listening skills, which are huge for English language learners. It's good for all students. In the end, the project really was aligned better to what I needed them to demonstrate than them writing an essay and regurgitating back to me the philosophy, the techniques that, they can just read about in their book.
So you feel like that what you got from them was better than if you had given them an essay and they'd actually written it themselves?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
See, that's what we've got to get to because a lot of the essays and the discussion forums, that weekly discussion forum posts that educators have been using, they don't work. They're not really, really reflecting. And half the time, people aren't really, really checking them. Like, it's such a waste of time to do those discussion forum posts in so many ways.
So I actually flipped that as well. I changed that so they're not writing it on their own. They're actually doing the discussion forum live in class. So they're doing the reading. They can bring their notes. And then it was an easy flip for me. I basically did a flipped classroom. I said, okay, you're going to do the reading at home. You're going to do the notes at home and you're going to come in and do the discussion live. And then if I'm grading the discussion posts, I grade it in real time and they get personalized feedback immediately.
What a great thing. Okay, so let's talk about one other controversial issue because this whole idea about AI detectors. Like I feel like educators are destroying relationship with children because they flat out don't work, right?
Right. They don't work. And I do get very frustrated with AI detectors because number one, plagiarism was not invented with AI. Like, it's been something we've talked about for time immemorial. Like, it's been around. So, these AI detectors and these gotcha moments, like, I'm gonna run it through and I'm gonna catch you in this, and then what? I think proactivity and talking to our students about creating our own work, talking about intellectual property, talking about plagiarism, talk about what's the difference, how can we use AI and our sources responsibly to help inspire our creativity, to help us be a thought partner, be something that we can use. Number 1, it's a waste of our time as teachers. Number 2, I think, like you said, it just absolutely destroys that relationship between the teacher and the student. My friend Katie McNamara and I do a session on AI ethics, and we talk about there's a cycle of trust, there's a cycle of ethical and responsibility between the student and the teacher, and it is a cycle. It goes around and around and around. And when we start playing these gotcha moments and using AI detectors, which don't work, this happened to my son, and it completely eroded his relationship with his teacher. It was, if your essay comes back, I run it through the generator and it comes back as quote unquote more than 30% AI. I'm taking 30% off your grade. That inspired fear in my son as a learner. And he wrote the essay and now he's running it through and seeing like, what's my percentage? What's my, instead of working with his essay to improve the quality of his writing and his thesis. And so he's like, okay, mom, I wrote this, but I need you to read it and we need to run it through and we're going to. And then what about our students that don't have parents that can help them with that? Or they don't have the time or they don't have the understanding, and then we're just, what are we doing? Are we teaching our students or are we catching our students?
I talked about AI detectors and this whole thing you and I are discussing at with a bunch of teachers, and I had a teacher come up to me crying, and she said, "Listen, I had a class in college just a few years ago. I was really trying to do well in, and so I struggled with writing, and I went to the writing lab and I revised and I did all this and I turned in the paper. I was so proud of myself because I knew it was an A, and the professor wrote on it, 'See me,' didn't even give me a grade." So I went and saw the professor, and the professor, "There's no way you wrote this." She's like, "I wrote it." So she brought in the guy from the writing lab who helped her, and the guy says, "She wrote this. I watched her write it." The professor went and wrote a B minus on the paper and said, "No matter what either of you say, there's no way you wrote this paper. I'm giving you a B minus." And she said she almost dropped out of college because she was so destroyed because she gave everything to that. And she felt like she was stuck forever in one lane because nobody believed her. And all the kids are so afraid. Back when ChatGPT came out, I had in all these quote detectors, I had a senior in my class actually take an essay he wrote from ninth grade and run it through AI detectors, and all of them said that it was written by AI, and it wasn't. That thing was written 4 years before, not by AI, and AI said it wrote it because he was a fantastic writer. So now we have this fake game of everybody writing something themselves, running it through the AI detector, and trying to figure out how to change it so it doesn't look like it's written by AI. Like, what on earth? This is ridiculous.
And it's such a waste of our time as educators. It's funny, at the end of last semester, I was working with my students and we were working on a project and I said, this piece of it, go ahead and use AI for this piece. Like this is it, just work smarter, not harder. And they were shocked. And they were like, "Wait a second. You're the first professor that we've ever had that said, 'Yeah, use AI.'" And I said, "Well, I'm not telling you to use AI for all of it. Just for this piece, use it as a thought partner." So then I modeled it for them. I showed them, at the time I was using ChatGPT. Now I have, you know, my collection that I use for different things. But I was like, yeah, this piece, like, have it run it through, have it be your thought partner, have it give you some feedback. And they were genuinely, and I thought, okay, we have to teach our students explicitly how to use AI responsibly. When, where, how, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And if we're not having those lessons and we're just playing a gotcha game, then I think we're really doing a disservice to our students, but also to ourselves. Because what is our time worth? What are we? I'd rather take that time and redesign my lesson and, make it unchat GPTable. What's our learning intention? What's our success criteria? What's the point?
Well, and we're professionals. And when an educator is frustrated and they know that AI is being used, I believe them. AI is being used and they know that their students are stealing an education from themselves. So let's acknowledge everyone has a reason to be upset and frustrated and take action. And it's not a quick fix of, well, let's just detect it. That is not like, let's look at what we're actually trying to teach here. Like, let's focus on that. I'm in a group and it drives me crazy. Probably every day, somebody says, what's the best AI detector? And I'm just like, stop, like, stop. Let's look at what we're trying to teach and let's iterate how we teach it. Like your midterm example, that's fantastic. Easier for you to grade. They learned more and they're thinking actually visually. Like there's a lot of reasons that was a really good assignment because videos are kind of like, video and storytelling is such a part of good speaking and creating and inventing and they need to know how to tell a story. So it's a better assignment.
It was a better assignment. At the end of the day, the whole thing was better. And then with doing the student showcase in class and getting peer feedback and being constructive and using that feedback and utilizing it, I was so inspired. What I love about teaching, what I love about education is I have the freedom as an educator and I have the knowledge and the background to know that I don't know everything and I can learn from others, and when I can think of something and I'm like, "Oh, this works." Now I'm inspired to see like how else can I do this? It's going to take a lot of time. It's going to take a lot of energy, but I'm really excited to overhaul everything for next semester, and I would way rather use my time to do that than trying to catch my students using AI. Now I'm going to build it in. Hey, you know what? This piece, you can use AI. This piece, this has got to be you. We live in the digital age. It's not just the digital age of learning. We live in the digital age and we need our students to be able to participate wisely and safely in the digital age. And I want my students to leave my class feeling empowered and knowing what they can do with their students, because otherwise, what am I doing? I'm just perpetuating the problem if I'm not actually trying to solve it in my own realm. So
This is the issue of our time with 85 million jobs going away because of AI, but being replaced with 97 million jobs for humans supervising AI and knowing the appropriate place for AI. And honestly, AI is rock solid, pretty awesome at formative feedback. Not final feedback, but as like you call it a thought partner. I probably wouldn't use the word thought because I really don't like to anthropomorphize AI, but well, Laurel Aguilar-Kirchhoff, we have 2 podcast episodes and we'll air at different times, but this was a really helpful conversation. And I hope that all of you educators out there know that this is not an easy time, but if you can come through, redesign the project and say, this is a better learning experience than I had before, then we'll all be better off. Thanks, Laurel.
You've been listening to the 10-Minute Teacher Podcast. If you want more content from Vicki Davis, you can find her on Facebook, X.com, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Cool Cat Teacher. Thank you for listening.